Hey everyone, welcome back. How's it going, friends from all over the world? If you're new here, we're honored to have you with us. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. The strike on Al Udeid, the start of a major escalation. On June 28, 2025, the world was once again on the edge of a major conflict. Iranian ballistic missiles pierced the skies over Qatar, directly hitting the US military stronghold at Al Udeid Air Base. It was Iran's first significant response to a recent attack carried out by the American B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, which, according to sources, had targeted a facility linked to Iran's nuclear program near Tehran. Iran reacted swiftly and angrily, declaring it would not bow to pressure, not even nuclear blackmail. Al Udeid is a critical hub for US logistics and intelligence in the Middle East. It houses over 10,000 military personnel along with strategic bombers and refueling aircraft. From the heart of the Qatari desert, the US military coordinates operations in Iraq, Syria and Yemen. So this strike wasn't just symbolic, it was a clear message. Iran made it clear, its red lines aren't to be crossed. Even though most of the missiles were intercepted by the US missile defense system known as BDA umbrella, at least 3 made it through and hit the outskirts of the base, damaging equipment and temporary structures in the maintenance zone. Thanks to quick evacuation and efficient response from Qatar's civil defense forces, no casualties were reported, but tensions spiked fast. Within an hour, US F-22 and B-52 aircraft were seen maneuvering over Bahrain, Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, a clear sign that things could escalate even further. Iran said in an official statement that the strike was calculated and limited and intentionally avoided hitting residential areas in Doha. Tehran emphasized it didn't want to jeopardize its ties with Qatar, which remains an important regional partner. This shows the fine diplomatic balance Iran is trying to maintain, projecting strength without completely burning bridges. Trump's unexpected statement and global confusion. A media storm erupted right after the strike. US President Donald Trump made a surprise announcement on his Truth Social platform claiming Iran and Israel had agreed to an immediate ceasefire. But both Israeli and Iranian officials denied any such agreement. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Abbas Araghchi strongly rejected the idea of negotiations with Israel, calling Trump's claims fictional and provocative. His comments caused confusion even among Washington's allies. According to The Guardian, top French government sources called Trump's move one-sided and urged the US to show more restraint. Analysts from the Carnegie Middle East Center believed Trump was trying to take control of the narrative and present himself as a peacemaker, especially with the 2026 election campaign looming. Meanwhile, the situation on the ground kept getting more intense. According to Al-Mayadeen, Iran placed its elite Quds Force units on full combat alert in Bushehr, Isfahan, and along the Persian Gulf coast. Both sides exchanged not just attacks but also signals. Washington responded by deploying more air defense systems to Bahrain and Kuwait, and the Pentagon increased troop presence at Iraq's Al-Assad air base. Iranian media, especially Kayhan newspaper, claimed the strike was just a first warning. They said if aggression continues, stronger retaliation will follow. Despite the tough talk, the message was clear. Iran doesn't want war, but it won't allow its security to be ignored. By the evening of June 29th, Iraqi sources reported increased Iranian drone activity near Diyala, close to the Iranian border. This may signal that Iran is preparing for more action if the US continues airstrikes near Tehran or Bandar Abbas. Diplomacy under fire. This wasn't just a military episode. It marked the beginning of a new strategic phase in the Middle East. Iran showed it's ready to act boldly but within calculated limits. Now the US faces a choice: escalate further or find real paths to de-escalation beyond press statements and one-sided interpretations. In a world already struggling with inflation, oil instability, and a crisis of trust in global institutions, the Middle East has once again become the arena where the rules of global power are being written, by force or diplomacy. June 29th marked the beginning of the fallout. On that day, Trump's unexpected statement shocked not just international observers, but even political elites in Washington. On Truth Social, he claimed that Iran and Israel had reached a deal, a claim Iran's foreign ministry immediately dismissed as absurd. Foreign Minister Araghchi told Iran's state TV, with continued occupation and provocation, even suggesting negotiations is ridiculous and unacceptable. He accused the US of pushing a fake narrative to cover up military failures. European diplomats expressed confusion, and the French Foreign Ministry called Trump's claim unverified and potentially dangerous. A political firestorm erupted inside the United States as well. Republican Senator Rand Paul slammed Trump's move on Fox News, saying diplomacy based on fiction undermines strategic stability and trust. Democrats called the statement a reckless political stunt ahead of elections. The reality on the ground was, well, quite different. Media outlets began pushing out analysis. CNN reported that Trump's announcement came while fighting continued across the region. Hezbollah was attacking Israeli military positions from southern Lebanon. Israel retaliated by hitting targets in Syria. Iranian drones were spotted near Iraq's borders, and US air activity over the Strait of Hormuz had increased. In short, there was no ceasefire, not even in theory. Pentagon sources, as quoted by Politico, said they had no knowledge of any deal and in fact had advised the White House to strengthen defenses in Iraq and Kuwait in anticipation of possible Iranian attacks. According to the Wall Street Journal, on the same day, the Pentagon ordered the rapid deployment of BDA umbrella batteries to northern Bahrain, along with the relocation of tactical fighters to Al Dhafra Air Base in the UAE. Trump's statement started to look more and more disconnected from reality. Even US intelligence sources, in off-the-record comments, said it seemed like an attempt by Trump to hijack the agenda, especially as his pressure strategy on Iran was visibly failing. Analysts at the Middle East Institute believe Trump was trying to position himself as a peace broker who could end war with words, not bombs, a narrative especially appealing amid rising oil prices and concerns over the US economy's second-quarter performance. But actual events contradicted every word. On the night of June 29th, in response to Israeli and Hezbollah actions in Lebanon and Syria, more than 30 Iranian drones took off from Bushehr and Abadan. There was also movement of Iranian anti-ship missile launchers at Bandar Abbas, pointing towards the Strait of Hormuz. In response to the American media narrative, Iranian outlets launched a counter-offensive. The next day, state-run Iranian newspapers published a series of pieces mocking Trump's ceasefire claim and highlighting US panic. Al-Qasr, in its editorial, flat out said Trump's fake peace was just a smokescreen hiding Washington's strategic weakness. In the end, Trump's ceasefire statement was not only false, it sparked a new wave of mistrust and misinformation. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, Baghdad to Bahrain, everyone now had to navigate both real military threats and artificial media signals from Washington, only adding chaos to an already unstable geopolitical landscape. This episode made one thing crystal clear. When diplomacy becomes a performance, everybody loses. And as always, it's the Middle East that pays the price for the mistakes of those who write headlines instead of raising white flags. Meanwhile, as the world debated Trump's ceasefire fantasy, Iran kept pushing forward with its own strategy. Tough, but diplomatically calculated. By the night of June 28th, reports confirmed that Iran's Revolutionary Guard had begun repositioning missile units along its southern coast, including in Hormozgan and Bushehr provinces. One of the key parts of Iran's strategy was its clear avoidance of targeting civilian infrastructure, even during the June 27th strike on Al-Udeid. The missiles were aimed exclusively at technical and military facilities. This choice of targets reflected Tehran's political calculation. The message to Washington was obvious, but Iran also made it clear it didn't want to damage its friendly relationship with Qatar. Doha's response? The Qatari Foreign Ministry released a neutral and cautious statement calling on all sides to exercise maximum restraint. This careful diplomatic approach was part of a broader Iranian strategy that had been taking shape during the week leading up to the June 24th attack. Iran's foreign minister visited Muscat, where he met with the Sultan of Oman, a traditional Middle East mediator. Following the talks, both sides agreed to intensify defense-level dialogue and lay the groundwork for a potential peaceful channel if things continued to escalate. On June 26th, Iran's delegation to the UN submitted a formal note to the Security Council, calling for an emergency meeting about what it called illegal US Air Force actions over Iranian territory. Iran's permanent representative, Amir Saeed Iravani, accused an American B-2 Spirit bomber of violating international airspace and stressed Iran's right to self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter. At the same time, regional activity was ramping up. Saudi Arabia, concerned it might become a target of an Iranian counterattack, held internal military consultations. According to Al Arabiya, the Saudi Air Force Command met in Riyadh on June 25th to discuss relocating assets from Prince Sultan Air Base to western bases closer to the Red Sea, a clear sign of deep concern over potential military escalation. Israel, meanwhile, kept up its usual pace of operations near its borders. Satellite images dated June 28th showed Merkava tanks and Iron Dome systems moving into the Metula area along the Lebanese border. Despite this, the Israeli government remained publicly silent. According to leaks reported by Haaretz, Israeli officials were frustrated by Trump's sudden ceasefire announcement, seeing it as a publicity stunt in a conflict that's far from resolved. Iran, for its part, was working to make sure the international community understood its response wasn't an act of aggression, but rather a reaction to external military provocation. In a press conference on June 28th, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Nasser Kanani stated, "We don't want war, but we won't allow Iran's territory to become a playground for foreign adventures." This came amid reports that Iran had increased combat readiness in the provinces of Isfahan and Khuzestan. Domestically, the situation remained under control despite economic pressures and the looming threat of new sanctions. Pro-military rallies broke out in Mashhad, Shiraz, and Tabriz. Iranian state media used the demonstrations to paint a picture of national unity in the face of foreign pressure. Kayhan newspaper, known to be close to the ruling elite, wrote in its editorial that Iran's response was a lesson to those who believe pressure leads to submission. Turkey also got involved. On June 27th, Ankara proposed an emergency summit of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, saying foreign interference in Middle Eastern affairs demanded a unified response from the Islamic world. Iran welcomed the move, seeing it as indirect support for its anti-war stance. So by June 29th, it was clear that despite the airstrikes and rising tensions, Iran had not abandoned its diplomatic tools. In contrast to the rhetoric coming from Washington, Iran's actions were increasingly viewed as strategic rather than emotional. In a situation where any wrong move could trigger a major war, that kind of restraint carries a lot of weight. Boiling point: the Strait of Hormuz and oil blackmail. By the morning of June 28, 2025, after days of tit-for-tat military signals between Iran and the US, the focus of global analysts shifted to one of the most strategically sensitive spots on the planet, the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which up to 1 million barrels of oil pass every day, making up nearly a quarter of global demand. Now it was suddenly in the geopolitical spotlight amid rumors that Iran might shut it down and growing signs of increased Iranian naval activity in the area. Global markets reacted immediately. Brent crude prices jumped to $96 a barrel, the highest level since the end of 2023. The first warning signs came on June 26th when Iran's naval forces... Thanks for watching. Please follow S News for more